योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् अलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम्. So today we start with Sutra 3.39, which is as follows. It says udānajayājjalapaṅkakaṇṭakādiṣvasaṅga utkrāntiśca. So this is another siddhi, and also interestingly for us, it brings in the angle of the udana vayu. We have dealt with pranayama and pranas, etc. earlier. But this specifically refers to udānajaya. So udānajaya here refers to sanyama on the udana. So the sutra says udānajayāt, on having attained sanyama on the udana. As we know, there is a prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana vayus. So this is as part of that same udana is being referred to here. So on sanyama on udana, jala panka kantakadishu asangaha utkrāntiśca. So it refers to not getting caught up in water, mud. Panka means wet mud. Water refers to water bodies like rivers and whirlpools, etc. Panka refers to marsh, slush, mud. Kantaka refers to thorns and entangling plant growth, etc. So not being ensnared, not being caught up in that. And then utkranti. Utkranti refers to the urdhvagamanam. And it is further clarified that what is this urdhvagamanam means? The upward movement. So what is the upward movement that is referred to here by the word utkranti? It is said that utkrāntiśca archirādimargena bhavati prayanakale. So here utkranti has a very specific meaning, which refers to the journey after the life has ended, the journey of the Atma and the Sukshma Sharira, and the various Puranas, Brahma Sutras, etc., and the Upanishads have a long discussion on this. So there, the glorious path that eventually takes one to higher and higher worlds and later Brahma Prapti, that is known as the Archiradi Marga. So here it refers to that the yogi, after he decides, or after the life has ended, the journey of the Atma with the Sukshma Sharira will be along the Archiradi Marga, which is the upward movement to finally Brahma Prapti and Moksha and so on. So that is the result of Udānajaya, the Udāna Vayu. So that is what this sutra refers to. Now let's look at what Vyasa covers in the Bhashya. Now, as usual, as we have mentioned in the Vibhuti Pada, the sutras are also used, or as part of the Bhashya of the sutra, the different siddhantas or different accepted principles of the Yoga Darshana are covered. Just as we had seen the discussion on language and linguistics that we refer to as Shabdanuशासनम, then the discussion on the various lokas, the 14 worlds and the various celestial beings. So in the context of different sutras, different siddhantas are also established. So in this case, Vyasa takes the sutra to talk about the 5 pranas or the pranavayus that of course forms a very central part of yoga abhyasa. So Vyasa begins by saying, Samastendriya vrittihi pranadilakshana jivanam. So he says, Samasta indriya vritti. So all the activities of indriyas. So that is Samasta indriya vritti. Pranadilakshana, of the nature of prana, etc. What is that? That is jivanam. So what is jivanam? What is life that is being characterized? What do we say? This is life, this is a living being. They're saying all the indriya vrittis. And what is common across each indriya is different. The chakshur indriya is for vision, the shrotra indriya is for hearing, etc. But the commonality among all of them is the activity of prana, which is also mentioned in the Sankhya Karika. Ishvara Krishna Sankhya Karika, it says, Samanya Karana Vrittihi Pranadhyaha Vayavaha Pancha. So there is Samanya Karana Vritti. So the commonality in the activity of all the indriyas is the activities of prana and pranavayus. So that is jivanam. Jivanam means life in general, the process of living. So samastendriya vrittihi pranadilakshana jivanam. Now, tasya kriya panchatayi. So what is the nature? It is fivefold, which we know. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, etc. So there is this concept that we had talked about when we looked at the pranayama sutras of Upanishads, etc., referring to something known as the Mukhya Prana. And we had mentioned that the Mukhya Prana has a very exalted place in certain systems like the Pancharatra, etc., where we will say that the Supreme Lord, the dynamic aspect of it is described in the notion of Shakti. And the ultimate Shakti, that form, the dynamic aspect of the Lord, manifests in the form of prana. So in that particular text, Sudarshana is given the name given to the ultimate Shakti, and that is said Prana Rupaha Vishnoha Shakti Sudarshanam. So it is Prana Rupa. So the ultimate of all dynamic activity of will, etc., is referred to by Mukhya Prana. And we had also discussed that in terms of the principles like Mahat, Ahankar, Manas, Indriyas, Bhutas, Tanmatras, etc., we had discussed how Mukhya Prana is mentioned as being the Rajasic aspect of Mahat, which is very early it is the first in the evolution of Prakriti. So Mukhya Prana gets a very important exalted position for activities. Now, Tasya Kriya, as it evolves and there are activities are there, that is fivefold. So even though prana is one, based on the different regions and different activities, it is said to be fivefold. So among those fivefold, pranaha mukhanasika gatihi arudaya vrittihi. So this prana, as seen as one among the five, So even though the prana is a common name for all the five, still one specific part of the five is known as prana, which is mukhanasika gatihi, which means it moves through the mouth and the nose region. And ārudaya vrittihi, so it is up to the hridaya desha. Hridayam abhivyapyeti ārudayam vrittihi yasya asau, that is prana, which means it is up to the hridaya desha, up to the heart region. Heart region is generally referred to as the chest region, the center of the chest. And of course, the name prana, prakarshena anayati iti pranaha. So it is the primary activity is to bring in the energy, and it is said to be in the nose and mouth region right up to the heart and chest region. So that is one among the five, which is prana. Then samam nayanat samānajayājjalapaṅkakaṇṭakādiṣvasaṅga. Samānajayājjalapaṅkakaṇṭakādiṣvasaṅga. So what is the samana? Okay. So it says samam nayanat. It equalizes. And that is why it is known as samana. So here, the samana vayu is said to be active in the equalizing of the prana apana activity, and also bring forth the equalizing and spreading through the digestion process of the incoming food, etc. Annam. So that is samana, says Vyasa. Then he says apanayanad apana apadatala vritti. So samana was said to be anabhivrittihi. So from the previous samam nayanat samanaha cha anabhivrittihi. So anabhi, from the heart region to the navel region. Nabhi means navel. So that was said to be the region of the samana, and the activity of samana was samam nayana, equalizing. Further downwards, apanayana means taking away, taking something away. So apanayanat apanaha, therefore it is known as apana. So from that navel region to apadatala, to the bottom, the soles of the feet, all of that is apana vrittihi. That is where the apana is active, where it resides, where it is. So we have seen prana, samana, and apana. Then Vyasa says unnayanat udāna āshiro vrittihi. So unnayana means taking upwards. So you will see that nayana is there in all of these. That is how the word itself is formed. Because in Sanskrit you form a word through certain roots known as dhatu, the verb roots, and through certain grammatical transformations to form the word. So prakarshena nayanam pranaha, samam nayanam samanaha, apanayanam apanaha. So here unnayanam. So there is udāna. Unnayanat udānaha. Āshiro vrittihi. It is in the head region. Shiras means head. So āshiro vrittihi. Lastly, vyapi vyanaha. So vyapa. So the vayu which pervades everything, vyapakam. So because it pervades everything, it is known as vyanaha. So therefore we see prana, samana, apana, udana, and vyana described to us by Vyasa in terms of their regions and their activity. Now he says tesham pradhanam pranaha. So the pradhana means mukhya. The most important among them is pranaha. So this is some background that Vyasa chooses to provide in the context of this sutra. Now he says, coming back to the sutra, udānajayāt जलपङ्ककण्टकादिषु असङ्गः उत्क्रान्तिश्च प्रयाणकाले भवति. So he is quoting the sutra as is, but he specifically says utkrāntiśca prayanakale, which I did mention in terms of the archiradi marga during the passing away, or during what is referred to as death, when the life is over. Now, but first part of it was जलपङ्ककण्टकादिषु असङ्गः. So that is further explained as ऊर्ध्वगतित्वेन जले महानद्यादौ महती वा कर्दमे तीक्ष्णेषु कण्टकेषु वा न सज्जते अतिलघुत्वात्, which means the Sanyama on Udana brings a certain urdhvagati, an upward movement, and because of the urdhvagati, when one is in a water body like a Mahanadi, etc., Mahanadyado, or Mahativa Kardame, or in a so what we call it as lot of mud, or a marsh region, or a swamp, so where there is wet mud, because of the upward movement that has come from the Sanyama, one is not stuck in it. Similarly, Tikshneshu, Kantakeshu, very sharp thorns, etc., in that na sajjate, one is not stuck. So that is one of the siddhis that is also described in the context of this sutra. Then he says, utkrāntiśca prayanakale. So what is that? That is something I already described. Utkrāntiśca archirada margena bhavati prayanakale. So this will remind one of the shloka in Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter, where Krishna says, prayanakale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhror madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So prayanakale, the time of death, manasachalena, with the mind steady, bhaktya yukto, full of bhakti, yoga balena chaiva, bhakti and yoga bala. Yoga bala refers to the powers from the samadhi, the various siddhis that we are also talking about. Bhror madhye pranamaveshya samyak, with the prana collected in the region between the eyebrows. Satam param purusham upaiti divyam, one reaches the divine purusha, it says, at the time of death. So the same reference comes here, where the passing through, in more technical terms, through the archiradi marga, is a great siddhi coming from udānajaya. So all of this tam vashitvena pratipadyate. So all of this comes under his power or his control. So now yogi who has attained sanyama on the udana vayu, for him this is now in his vasha, means it is within his available siddhis, within his powers, within his control. So this is the sutra about the udana vayu, with slight background on the various vayus. Like it is said, Rudi, Prano, Gude, Apanaha, Samano, Nabhideshagaha, Udana Kanta Deshasya, Vyanaha, Sarva Shariragaha. So this is how the regions that was just described, as well as the activity, the fivefold nature of the prana, as given as a background by Vyasa. Then further back to the sutra, where the two types of siddhis, one is an upward movement that protects the yogi from being drowned in water, stuck in mud, etc., and the great upward movement known as the archiradi marga, after the death, where the yogi can proceed further through a purified sukshma sharira and the atma itself. So that is sutra 3.39.
So udānajayāt. So this is a samyama on udana. One of the panchapranas is udana. And udānajayāt, so there is samyama on the udana vayu, and then the consequence, the result of it is the siddhi. The siddhi is of the nature of some kind of ascendancy and kind of buoyancy. Jalapaṅkakaṇṭakādiṣvasaṅga. That means the yogi has that siddhi to be walking across a water body without getting submerged. And so also untouched, that means untouched by water, untouched by mire. He can be walking over the water but untouched by it. Walking over the mire but untouched by it. Walking over a thorny path or path full of thorns yet untouched by the thorns. So that shows that there is kind of that ascendance as a part of siddhi. So there is asanga, means not touched by. Usually when we walk over the water body, in all probabilities we sink in the water, or we are sunk in the mire, or the thorn pricks our foot. But with this siddhi, it doesn't happen. And finally, utkrāntiśca. Even the utkranti, prayana kala, that is final journey of life. The final journey of life, that is journey after the death, is described as Devayana Marga and Pitruyana Marga, or the path of Archi, brightness, and fire and brightness, and the other one is the path of Dhumra, that is the path of fume. So usually we people, when we have reincarnations, that is life after life or life after the death, that is because of our transmigrating journeys are in Dhumra Marga. So it is path of darkness, while the Archi means it is luminosity, brightness. So there are two paths for our prayana after death. So Bhagavad Gita, as you just now heard, the 8th chapter mentions about the two paths called Pitruyana Marga and Devayana Marga. Devayana Marga is Archiradi Marga. Archi means brightness. Then we are aware of this, these two paths which are mentioned as bright fortnight, the day, bright fortnight, and while the Dhumra Marga is night and the dark fortnight. So those who are going for ultimate emancipation and liberation, they escape through the Archiradi Marga. Their path after the death is Archi Marga, Devayana Marga. While those who are not supposed to be getting liberated, they take journey on the path of Dhumra, that is the Pitruyana Marga, go to the plane of mains and come back again in the form of life. So Apanajaya will also be giving that privilege to yogi to opt for Archiradi Marga, so that the yogi is able to reach the emancipation, or what is called as Parama Purushartha Moksha, a path of no return. So that is the Utkranti during Prayana Kala. So this is what is the efficacy of Udānajaya. And then Vyasa describes, as you heard, about the Pancha Pranas and Pancha Vayus. Samasta Indriya Vrittihi Pranadi Lakshana Jivanam. What is life? Life is, after all the Indriyas, external, internal, gross and subtle, cognitive and cognitive and internal, all these Indriyas, when they are functioning, that is called life. And then he describes how in embodiment, we have locations, as you just now heard, which demarcate the locations and regions of the vayus here. So the prana has the location located to it is between the nose and mouth, nostrils and mouth, up to the heart. So heart to nose is the region of prana. And the part above that is the region of udana, that is Shirsha Pradesha. Then below the prana, below the heart is samana, up to the navel. And you heard about these nomenclatures, the names. The samana is called samanayanat samanascha anabhivrittihi. So it is very significant here, the role of the samana. All that food we intake, which is comprising of nutritions and nutrients, it goes to belly. And the belly distributes that equally to apada talamastaka. So the distribution is equal of all that food that we take, which is comprising of nutrients to the life. So it equally distributes. It doesn't unequally distribute. So because it equally distributes, it is rightly called samanam. And how that nomenclature is arrived at is mentioned. Apadayanat apana. So the apana vayu works from part below the navel, apada talavrittihi, up to our soles of the feet. And then udana, ashiro vrittihi, up to head, that is location above the prana. Now what is being mentioned is udānajaya. That means the prana, which is, or the vayu, which is from the nose up to Shirsha Kapala Pradesha. And the samyama on it gives a siddhi, a power, whereby the yogi is able to have these miraculous powers attained, that he can be walking over the water body without submerging into the water. And we have an interesting story of Padmapadacharya, one of the disciples of Srimad Adi Shankaracharya, that he walked to his Acharya while he was giving discourses, and he was absent there. So other students were wondering, where is Panchapada? And then Panchapada appeared there. She walked over the water body and reached the destination and joined the discourse. That's what the life of Shankara tells us, Adi Shankara tells us about Padmapadacharya. So he could walk over the water, and yogis have this miraculous power of walking over the water. So it's kind of that buoyancy that they will not get submerged. So also they will be walking over a mire without being touched by mire, and walking over the path of thorns, not being touched by thorns. So that is the Laukika Siddhi. Alaukika Siddhi is Utkranti. So the yogi can opt for Archiradi Marga. And here also we get the example of Bhishma Pitamaha, who waited after having been slayed in the battlefield, yet he remained on the Sharashaya, the bed of arrows, because he wanted to wait for the bright fortnight. So he waited for a couple of days, which was round the corner. And then he allowed the prana to pass out when it was time for Archi Marga, path of bright the Devayana Marga, which is bright of the bright. So that's the siddhi that he waited. Even after being dead, he did not die. He kept alive himself and held on to the prana for a couple of days and remained on the Sharashaya, and then boarded the Utkranti Marga and went to the eternal abode. So that is the Urdhva Gamanam. So that's the siddhi that is mentioned. This is the Alaukika siddhi, which is Archiradi Marga Gamanam. Okay.
So now we move to the next sutra, which is somewhat related, and that is a short sutra with a short bhashya. It's a samānajayājjvalanam. So we looked at the sanyama on the udānajaya. Now we look at the sanyama on the samānavayu. So samānajayāt, with sanyama on the samānavayu, what happens? There is jvalanam. Jvalanam means tejasvita, luster, the shine. So yogi attains a certain luster and shine. So that is samānajayāt jvalanam. So we have stories and descriptions in Puranas and elsewhere, even saints like Jnaneshwar and so on, where they are glowing. They are said to be glowing. As Guruji has said in his book, Kapila, the Kapila Maharishi, he is said to have burned the sons of Sagara through the fire from his eyes and so on. So that is the jvalanam, that is the power, that is the teja that is referred to here. So samānajayāt jvalanam. Vyasa gives a very brief bhashya. He says, Chita samānaha tejasaha upadmanam kurvata jvalati. So one who has attained sanyama on the samānavayu through the tejas, that luster and shine, he is able to activate it and then glow in a sort of dazzling luster. So that is what this particular sutra and the bhashya says. So the jivana vyapara, or the activity of samana, is such that, and as we know, it is situated so close to the Vaishvanara fire and its role in digestion, that is the region of Agni and so on. So through the sanyama on that, the siddhi attained is actually the glowing of the tejas that the yogi attains. So that is Sutra 3.40.
So samānajayājjalanam, samyama on the samana, gives that power which is with regards to fire. And they have the Vaishvanara Agni within our belly, as you heard just now, what is called as Pachanagni, or the fire in the belly. And that fire itself can be locus for yogi to be generating heat. And you heard just now that Jnaneshwar, he allowed the back to be a burner, and the chapatis were prepared by his sister by using his back, and what we call something as back burner, the back itself can be burning because the back comes under the samani governance. And you heard about Kapila burning the Sagara Putras from the fire of the eyes. So the fire can be externalized by Samānajaya. Yogi can externalize the fire which is within the belly, and it can be indeed working like fire to burn. And Vijnana Dikshu in his commentary says that yogis don't wait for the body to be cremated by someone. They generate the fire from their own belly and their bodies are cremated. by Vaishwanara Agni, by that Agni within the belly. So that's the power of a yogi, because the mortal coils have to be left behind. And that's why the mortal coils are confined to fire in Vedic culture. And that fire can be generated, and many yogis have done this, that the fire has emanated from their own belly and they have confined the body to that fire. So that's the samānajaya, and the jvalanam is the siddhi of it. Okay.
Okay. So let us stop the session for today. Next time we move to a slightly different set of siddhis and sanyamas. So let's recite the shlokas on Guruji and stop for today. Vaijñānikam pravaktrutva asaneshu kalavidam योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञं वन्देऽहं सुन्दरं गुरुं योगवृक्षो हि लोकेऽस्मिन् यत्प्रेरणेन वर्धितः योगाचार्यगुरो तुभ्यं सुन्दराय नमो नमः. Thank you.
Namaskar of you.